Thank you so much, Mark. And I'm just grateful for being here to all of you who create this wonderful community. And I have a lot of gratitude at this time of year for the birthdays of my mom and my aunt, who passed away in the number of years, past few years. They grew up in a family committed to a spiritual community, helping with parents who believed that visiting the sick and providing meals for the hungry was important. And I'm also grateful, in addition to you all in this room, I'm grateful to the two previous leaders of this week of Shmot, Rabbi Robin, who shared powerfully about holy ground that we all stand on. And some of you might have remembered to remove your shoes that day, and feel free to do that now. And she also spoke about Moses' experience at the burning bush. And then yesterday, with the beautiful and calming presence, Mira Neshama shared the idea of awareness, of da'at, and how the Hasidic masters, specifically Me'or Einayim, translate the words of Torah into the mystical. So I thank them both and thank you all. And I look forward to the rest of the week with other wonderful teachers. So I first invite you to settle comfortably, however you wish, on a chair, on a cushion, perhaps lying down or standing or even walking, whatever works for you today. And I invite you to allow your eyes to soften, your body to soften and melt, and allow the breath to fully enter your body. So slowly take a few breaths, full breaths, in and out. Feel free to continue with your eyes closed or open them now if you like, but I will offer everything aloud that's on the shared screen, so you can let the words wash over you or read them as you prefer. So Kat, I'll invite you to share the screen. Thank you so much. So let me begin. As Mark said, I like to begin each book of the Torah with a book of Psalms. So this, from the second book of Psalms, I want to begin with Psalm 62, verses 2 and 6 that have a lot of similarity to them, but not quite. The grammar changes and a little bit changes. So, my being is wrapped in silent waiting, only for God, from whom comes my deliverance. Wait silently, my being, only for God, from whom comes my hope. So I invite you to feel wrapped in silent waiting as you listen or join in these words. Ach el Elohim, dumia nafshi, mimenu Yeshuati. Ach l'Elohim, domi nafshi, ki mimenu tikvati. Ach el Elohim, dumia nafshi, mimenu Yeshuati. Ach l'Elohim, domi nafshi, ki mimenu tikvati. Vati. Some of you may or may not know that the 150 Psalms are divided into 5 books. I didn't know that, but once I discovered it, I have been inviting this connection between the beginning of each book of Torah with each book of Psalms. I also like to look at the Jewish month with Rabbi Jill Hammer's book, The Jewish Book of Days. And you see on the sheet about the month of Tevet. So the month of Tevet, she talks, actually, Rabbi Hammer speaks about each month of Jewish months, and she shares different things that are associated with each. So with Tevet, she drew my attention to the fact that it comes from the word tov, which means good. And she talks about Tevet as a season of waiting, a season of transition, associated with the color white. And it's also a time of darkness and a time of stories and a month of anger. The angel that goes with it is Gabriel, the angel of waiting. And all this, she says, she reminds us, is Tov. And one of the things that she suggests about this period of the Jewish calendar is that it teaches us patience and courage, skills that we need to tend and harvest the seeds that we've planted. For now, we are like the branches of the trees, strong enough to weather whatever comes until the season of buds is on us again. So we think of this time of year, of darkness, of the winter, of the cold, at least where I live, and also a time of more quiet, of dumiyah. It's a time of waiting because those seeds are underground and they need to be underground and wait. And the animals hibernate, and some people do too. So in the Torah portion, we hear about the difficult times that come when a new Pharaoh comes who knows not Joseph. This is a time also of darkness in the lives of the Israelites in Egypt. They're living a life of pain and slavery. But they're also in a period of waiting because they are going to go to freedom. So they're in this time between slavery and freedom. And they need patience and they need courage. And they have 2 special midwives that do just this, Shifra and Puah. So let's look at a few verses from the first chapter of Shmot, Exodus. So, Kat, are we on that part with Exodus there? So this is the very first chapter, 15. And the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, one of whom was named Shifra and the other named Puah. And he said, when you deliver the Hebrew women, and look, or iten, on the birth stool, if it's a boy, you shall put him to death, and if it is a girl, she may live. And the midwives feared. I apologize, I fixed the transliteration. It should be vatirena. And the midwives feared God, this idea of awesome fear, and did not do as the king of Egypt has spoken to them, and they let the children live. So they were strong, and they did what they knew was right. A wonderful new book has recently been published, Dear Shuni, edited by Tamar Bialy. And I was lucky enough to meet the editor. We had a beautiful program at Hebrew College a few months ago, and then learned with several of our rabbinic graduates. And it's really wonderful about women's midrashim. So the word Dirshuni means seek me, and the word comes from the book of Amos. And here is an excerpt from one of the midrashim. The midwives were asked, where did you get your fearful awe of God? And they answered, from the great and deep things that we saw at the birth stool, from the mystery that embraces us morning and evening, human being after human being coming into the world. Where does he come from? And what does she bring with her? The goodness that her mother sees in him, the compassion and the love that she awakens, crying babies bursting forth from exhausted bodies, and the soft seal of God's finger imprinted on their faces. And then the midwives say, our fearful awe is not in the heavens. You may recognize that from Deuteronomy 30. Our fearful awe of God arises precisely from within nature, from within the pain that we witness on the birth stool, and that nature holds both the painful and the joyful. And so, as we prepare for our silence, I'd like to invite you to consider when or where it is that you find God. And of course, God as you understand God, because we are all individuals. And considering that all is tov, good, both the difficult and the joyful. And as we move into about 10 minutes of complete silence, I offer this excerpt from a poem by Rilke that was in the recent IJS newest publication honoring our retired staff member, Rabbi Jonathan Slater. The book is called Torah Without End, Neo-Hasidic Teachings and Practices in honor of Rabbi Jonathan Slater. And I thank Rabbi Toba August for sharing it. So this is from Rilke, just a few excerpts. And then I will bring you out of the silence with the Psalm 62 Nigun again. God speaks to each of us as he makes us, then walks with us silently out of the night. Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. Give me your hand.
Thank you so much, Louise. That was just beautiful. Just beautiful. And friends, we seal the practice as we do each day. If you are in mourning, observing a yard site, if it's your custom to join the Mourner's Kaddish, you're invited to do so, and to put the name or names of those you're honoring today in the chat box, now or after we recite Kaddish. If you're not reciting Kaddish, you're invited just to stay present and create a minyan of comfort and support for those who are. And thanks to Kat Esposito, who's holding our space, as always, for sharing the words of the Kaddish on the screen. If you're reciting it, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit to recite the words together, and you can unmute at this time. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah,
Amen.
Yalmad, Yivrach, Yivutei, V'yamlich Malchutei, Yechon, V'yechon, V'yeh B'chol Beit Yisrael, Bahagala
Uspantari Bimbu
Amen.
Shme Rabban Barach Olam Olam
Olam Dual
Barach V'Yitabach Ba'ar V'Shamam V'Naseh V'Tadar V'Taled V'Yishpal Va'ela Mikol Birchata V'Shirata Ushbekata V'Nechamata Ta'amiran Ta'ama
Amen.
V'Yu
Shema
Ama Rabba Mishamaya V'Chaim Aleinu
Israel Yemru. Amen.
Shalom and Ramah,
Mal
Yaseh Shalom,
Shalom
Aleinu,
Aleinu Velkol
Israel,
Yisrael
Cultivate,
Kol Yoshvei Tevel Yemru. Amen.
Friends, thank you so much for joining us today. And I also I didn't see who did it, but someone mentioned in the chat today is the 50th yahrzeit, actually, of Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel of blessed memory, great teacher on the 18th of Tevet. So it's wonderful to acknowledge him, and in many ways, we might not be here engaging in this practice, even indirectly, if not for Rabbi Heschel, to whom we are indebted for so much beautiful teaching. Friends, I want to thank Kat Esposito. I want to thank Cantor Louise Treitman for leading us in practice today. Again, so beautifully, and I regret that I cannot stay on because for the conversation to follow, which everyone is invited to, because I have to jump off to teach a session. But Louise, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for sponsoring, and I want to just thank you for honoring your mom and your aunt, Zichronam Libracha. May their memory always be a blessing for you, through you, and for your family, and for all those whose lives they touched in this world. Thanks so much for honoring them today, and in this beautiful way, and for being such a constant presence, light, and teacher for this community. We're really all grateful to you. So I'm sorry, we're going to jump off here. I'm going to turn it over to Louise, who can respond to questions, comments, reflections, and look forward to seeing everyone again tomorrow.
Thank you. So the
last thing is somebody requested the Rilke poem.
Yep. So
I
did you put it in, Mark? Oh, beautiful.
Yep, I threw it in the chat. So
it's from this book, Torah Without End, and I had forgotten to put it in before I sent it to Kat yesterday. Thank you. It's a beautiful poem, and it's part of the portion. Rabbi Tova August speaks about it for the portion Bo, when you encounter the dark side. So I highly recommend this book that just came out. So if you could preface your questions with, as Mark says, the word all in caps, question, then I'll be able to notice it, and that would be helpful. Doreen, I also love Rilke in general, and this particular poem was just spoke to me, and it fit so beautifully with the idea of God being there in the dark moments and in the bright moments. And I was sort of wondering why Rabbi Jill Hammer had asked for white as the color of white. I wore my white shirt today as the color for the month of Tevet, and I realized probably snow, but also the contrast of white and dark. So, okay. And Go to the Limits of Your Longing is the name of that poem if you don't see the chat. So, question, what is the title of the book? So this is called Torah Without End, Neo-Hasidic Teachings and Practices in Honor of Rabbi Jonathan Slater, edited by Rabbi Michael Strassfeld, and it was just published in 2022. So it's similar to the book that was published to honor Sheila Peltz Weinberg, where each Torah portion has a comment, a quote or a comment from various people who have studied with that person. So I was very lucky to have studied with Rabbi Jonathan Slater for many, many years. So highly recommend it. Yeah, there is actually snow, Mark, in Eretz Yisrael. I've been there in December and in Jerusalem, and we had snow. I wasn't dressed for it, but okay. Laura is asking a question. Do you have any guidance as to how to help, how to be with or help or share these thoughts by Rilke with someone who is mired in sadness and anger? So I would respond to that with thinking about the Shifra and Pua and thinking about the anger and how they must have been so angry at Pharaoh, and all of the Israelites being so angry at Pharaoh for what he was bringing about, killing the Israelite boys, and perhaps turn it to what can I do to help make this better? And also, the other thing is realizing that everything changes. Like the poem that said at the very end, let everything happen, beauty and terror, just keep going. No feeling is final. Gam ze ya'avor. Everything changes. The good changes. So, when you're in the middle of lots of good, then there's that it will change. And if you're in the middle of lots of bad, it will change. Okay, so we have a question. We have heard about the righteousness of Shifra and Pua for all our lives, but this was the first time the honor of being at the birthing stool was explicitly used, and I found it very moving. Can you say more about their vision and wisdom, please? Absolutely. I wanted to share a little bit more of that midrash, and let me see if I can get to it. I don't have the book in my hand, but I wrote it down. So the midrash continues with the midwives being challenged about, but didn't it happen? Because they were saying they saw it in the birthing stool and in nature, and the midwives were challenged, and it continues. But didn't it happen at Sinai that all the people saw it? Ro'im, the thunder and the lightning and the voice of the shofar and the smoking mountain, and the people saw it and trembled and stood far off. And Moses said to the people, do not fear, al tira'u, for God has come to test you, to keep the fearful awe of God, yirato, before you, so that you will not transgress. And that's quoting from Exodus that we just saw. That's quoting from Exodus 20 at the Ten Commandments, just as the Ten Commandments were given. And the Midrash continues, the fearful awe of God comes from the place of thunder and lightning. So this is the person who's challenging the midwives. And then the midwives answered, there is a fearful awe, yir'ah, that comes from external seeing. And there is fearful awe that comes from internal vision. And a person can be frozen in terror, witnessing a supernatural miracle, which awakens and strengthens her sense of fearful awe. But for us, meaning the midwives, it doesn't work like that. Our fearful awe is not in the heavens, and you'll notice that quote comes from Deuteronomy 30, often heard on the high holidays, but from the end of Deuteronomy. Our fearful awe of God arises precisely from within nature and from within the pain of what we witness at the birth stool. From there, we learn to choose what is good, to protect life, to fight against death, and resist evil. And then there's some commentary, which ends with these words. The midwives explain that there are different types of experience that inspire faith in God. There is fear of God that is awakened by an encounter with a transcendent God and supernatural miracles, as with the revelation on Sinai. And then there is fear of God that springs from an encounter with an immanent God and the wonders of nature, as with the midwives, whose experience of the natural process of birth instilled in them a sense of God's wondrousness. In witnessing birth, they came to appreciate life amid pain, which awakened their love and compassion and led them to choose life and to follow the path of goodness. So I find the Dear Shuni book, every page that I open to, I find a new something special. Okay, there's some more questions that are coming in. You mentioned that Tevet is associated with the angel Gabriel, who's associated with waiting. So I would love to speak more about that, but unfortunately, I did not quite know. I tried to find out more about it, and I couldn't. This is the book. It's called the Book of Days, and what Rabbi Hammer does is she goes through each day, and so each of the days of Tevet, the things that kept popping up to me were winter, and Joseph's anger, and the siege of Jerusalem for the fast of Tevet, which was last week. But Sefer Yetzirah talks about Joseph's anger and Jacob's blessing and Pharaoh's anger. Sorry, that was from Genesis. Waiting for deliverance, and Yocheved waiting for the baby to be born, and Samson's anger and the winter mother and nourishing the seeds. These are just titles of some of these different days. And so it just says Gabriel as the angel of fire. And she says, in the Zohar, Gabriel is the angel of the north, of fire and of strength. Gabriel's also intimately involved in the events leading up to the Exodus, which we read about this time. One might say that Gabriel is the angel of winter. So there is a midrash about Gabriel being the one that pushed baby Moses to choose the coal instead of the crown when they were trying to figure out if this guy was trying to steal the throne. So, okay, let me go on and see if there's more here. Question, can you address the midrash that Shifra and Pua are really either Yocheved and Miriam or Yocheved and Elisheva? I unfortunately cannot address that, but I would love to find out more. So thank you for that. I love the Rilke poem. This is another question from Lori. And Rilke was Catholic and is referring to the hand of Jesus. As Jews, how do we interpret the hand of God as companion? So I feel like I can reinterpret so many things from different religions. I interpret things from the Buddhist religion, from Hinduism, from Christianity, and even the Hasidic. I have to reinterpret because it's so it doesn't involve the women, so I have to reinterpret a lot. And with the texts in the prayer book, I often don't want to change different prayers because I reinterpret them in my mind. But I often feel that connection to God as, someone that's walking by or something outside of myself that's walking by my side. And but I think it must give comfort to Christians who believe in Jesus walking by their side. Okay, here's another one. Aaron asks, what does the image wrapped in silent waiting evoke for you? Waiting for Hashem can be a sad image, but silent waiting brings a more positive image, like the waiting itself is a blessing. So I love this book. This comes from Rabbi Richard N. Levy's Songs Ascending. This is where I got the translation of that silent waiting, in silence. And for me, the idea of silence is waiting is with some anticipation. And here's another translation from Norman Fisher's opening to you of those same verses. My soul waits quietly for you. From you comes my deliverance. And then, yes, wait quietly, my soul. For you only do I hope in silence. So just different ways of translating those poems, those texts. The Rilke poem again, the title of the poem. Let's see. I know it's in the text. Oh dear, I've got the wrong book in front of me. Excuse me. It's called Go to the Limits of Your Longing, Rainer Maria Rilke. And the Jill Hammer book is the Jewish Book of Days, a companion for all seasons by Rabbi Jill Hammer. I felt like show and tell with, okay. So this is the time when I'd want Mark to talk so that I could type, but I will, let's see if I can type this in before we end so, okay, hold on. So Torah without end is published by IJS. And the Jewish Book of Days. Okay, somebody else is doing it. Thank you. I appreciate that. Opening to you is Norman Fisher, and the Jewish Book of Days by Rabbi Jill Hammer, and then Songs Ascending by Rabbi Richard N. Levy. Quiet waiting. I always feel like for meditation, it does feel like quiet waiting. The sitting and the quietness. So I love that expression of quiet waiting. So, and Harris is saying, I'm struck that the quiet waiting is a form of mindfulness rather than the itchy waiting that we often do. Thank you, Harris. I really like that. That's great. So anyway, I thank you so much for being here today, and I hope that I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be in the group tomorrow. I try to come pretty regularly. So thank you so much. Wishing you Shabbat